Now we'll be working on the cheat sheet with respect to Illustrator. Let's go through them now. The first one is actually two shortcuts. If you hit Control Y, then it gets me into kind of an invisible X-ray mode, and I can see there's a star and a dot here and a dot there. If I turn it back hitting the same Control Y command, I can turn it off, and you can see they are just shapes that have a text box and has no type. This is our anchor point tool from the pen tool. Over here there is a star and no stroke and no fill. To tidy these up, you can go up to the object and path and just give clean up, and this will clean up the stuff here. Just click OK, give Control Y, and those stars are gone. All tidied up nice. The next cheat is that, let's say these stars are here. I want to change color, but the color has been used a few times through my document. So what I can do is I can say select Illustrator and grab everything using the same fill color. Super handy. I can go to my properties, fill color, say you're all white now, and maybe I can just change here and choose a black color, right, like so. It's not very legible. I'll just give Control Z and go back to my white color. The next one is the maths in any field of Illustrator. Say I have the rectangle here. Delete a few of these, delete, and I'm gonna extend this a little right like so, and I'm gonna go here in the width section, and doesn't matter what the decimal is, you can just go right here and give /5. It is going to divide it by 5. And of course it had a height length, so it also did the 5 times division for the height as well. I'll just bring it back here and delete delink, go here and 5 tab there. It works with all the units, even if it's points, pixels, or pks or whatever. You can put it asterisk 5, or maybe you can put it -5. If I click that, now I'm getting the 1/5 of the size. I'm going to grab my black arrow and I want to duplicate these all along. So I could use copy paste and it ends up in the middle. So I'm going to use the trick. When I select with the black arrow, place it here, and I'm going to start dragging, holding Alt. I hold Alt and you see this double arrow, and just click and drag, and there you have your instance of copy. If you hold Shift, it will come straight line. Makes a duplicate while I'm dragging. That's a handy tip. Another little handy tip is if you now hit Control D, it is going to duplicate whatever you just did over and over again. Say I want to use my library color now. Swatches. Here is the orange foxy color that I have. I'll just click here, and it didn't apply. Well, it's applied to strokes. If you have strokes in front, it will be applied to the strokes. Say if you have the stroke, choose some color. It will be particularly applied on stroke only. You have to choose this option, fill, and then select the color, maybe from the swatches, and this foxy brown, and there. I can switch to X using X shortcut to the stroke color. Let's say I don't want the stroke color, I'll just press slash, and the stroke color will be changed to none. That's a long way. The shortcut is this. So one thing here is we can toggle for back and forth using the background and foreground color. You can also toggle between using Shift X from background fill to stroke fill. Say I would like Shift X. You can change the color between the fill and the stroke. So let's go to fill, give it none, Shift X. So I have this question mark that has the stroke as well, so that's going to give it none as well. I'm going to give it undo, get back my fill color. So one more option is that you can use the comma button. Stroke, comma is for the fill color, and the full stop is for the gradient button. So this adds just the fill of gradient, and I'm using comma for a solid color. Gradients are back, so all kinds of gather down here in the bottom. Use comma for the fill and full stop for the gradient, and slash for nothing. Back to gradients. Gradients are going to be used. They're totally back. You can use it, and just if you go ahead here, and maybe I'll just go this option, and I can just double click here and choose any color from here. Let's say a blue one, and I'm gonna double click here, and I'm gonna choose the green one. Okay. Also, I can double click here. I work with the color code, then I can just choose this one. This will be by default CMYK, or maybe just grayscale. You can just click here and change it to RGB or whatever else, and paste the copy paste the color code here, and you can get the exact color code shading of gradient that you're looking for. There are a couple of reference sites if you are looking for cool gradient combinations. You can just Google it, cool gradient combinations with color codes, and they will show up in the page. One more thing about gradients is sometimes they print badly with banding. So if you go to File, Print, and there's an option says Convert it to pixels here, and compatible gradient or gradient mesh printing. This will give a better printing with respect to gradient. Don't do that unless you have gradient problems. You hit print, you'll find there are pixels, they look nice. Font size is not bigger, but that's okay. If you want a gradient, hit cancel. Another cheat for the Illustrator is, let's say I want to export this fox, just him by himself. Sending the whole documents is easy enough. Actually, I'm going to drag this box down around him. Hold shift and click the background, the fox to go around. Just with it selected, it doesn't have to be grouped. I can click right click. Let's click on his. Click on the whole fox. Hold shift to deselect the background. Okay. Right click here. You can export selection. And there you are. You can export in multiple formats: JPG, SVG, PDF, or you want to scale. Even want to scale this up, and you can use this option as well. Say you want a whole whole thing as PDF, but your PDFs are coming out large in size. So let's go into File, Save As, and here I'm just Adobe PDF. Go ahead and give Save. Here I have a little option here. Say highest quality print, but here the trick is the button here, preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. You just need to turn it off, and it is going to save. Illustrator is not going to recommend that, but it just means that it's not going to have all the functionalities of Illustrator, which you don't need to have. That's what the file is for. The PDF just needs to be small and printable. One other thing you might need to do is here's an option called smallest file size. It turns it off by default. We can make it even smaller, probably not right for print, but definitely right for emailable or downloadable from a website. So let's just hit cancel. Next up are some more shortcuts, that is Control-Shift-P. I can place or import any image from my computer. Say this is an image, place, and I can hold Shift, click and drag, and it will place with respect to that click and drag option. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. That's kind of a handy shortcut that I use it quite a lot when I want to bring any file in Illustrator. Say I want to place something else here. Okay, place, click and drag, and I'm going to place it like it overlaps here. Right. You can use Shift Control square brackets to bring it back and forth. I can send it to back or make it front. I'm using the open bracket to make it send to back. Now I'm going to select both of these, hold Shift, and I'm going to give Control 7 to make this a clipping mask. Now this one is a reasonably clipping mask. That's for cropping things. The other one is for cutting holes in things. So I'll zoom in here. I'm going to click this guy and this guy, and I'm just going to give Control 8, and that is going to make my compound path with a new hole in it. Zoom back out, and I'm going to select these fonts, Control A. I'm going to use my Control Shift and dot key. That is going to increase the size of my font, and the comma key decreases the size of the font. Next thing I want to do is decrease the leading or the space between the lines. I've got these selected. I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to give up arrow key, and that is going to decrease the leading, or increase will be down arrow key, obviously, and increase my spacing between the lines. Another thing you might need to do is with the same key held down, you can use the right and left arrow keys, and that is going to do the tracking. That's what I want. A couple of more shortcuts with my black arrow. I can use my arrow keys to move this around as well. If I want to be precise about this, I'm using my arrow keys, and that will move around like so. But now if I hold down Shift and use my arrow keys, it is going to move with the increments of 10. So if it was moving like 1 pixel by just simply arrow keys, and if I now include the Shift key, it will move 10 pixels. It's just going to multiply the moving with 10. So one more thing, I want to increase the font size. I want it to be incrementing, like if I click here, it is going to go to 72, 73, 74, something like that. But let's say I want it like, I want to increase 10 points. So I'm going to hold shift and give 80, 90, 100, and it will increase so on with the increments of 10 if I hold shift while clicking on that. So hold down shift and it will multiply it by 10. It might be stroke weight. You can add a stroke to this font, and of course it's going to look bad, but you can just add the stroke and hold shift. It is going to increase by 10 points, and yeah, it ruins the font. Okay. If you're not using 2000 cc 18 or above, it's not going to work for you. Say if you're using Control Plus, it will zoom in at the center of the page. Let's say I want to Control Plus, it will move particularly with respect to this object. And if you don't have this, you can select this by going to Preferences, Edit Menu, Preferences, go to General. You can use shortcut Control K, and here select an anchor display. Here you have an option called Zoom to Selection. In case you have turned this off, then maybe you want to turn it off, because if you want something to be zoomed into a particular thing that is selected, then you can turn it on. If I had pressed Control K in here, some people don't recommend show home screen, show the start workspace option. Can go ahead in here and turn that off if that's something that you don't like. It opens up all your previous Illustrator files. If you're old school Illustrator, then you would not like that. You can turn that off. It just loads up with an empty software. So I'm going to turn back mine on and give OK. Now let's say you're working with a file something like this. These are for our exercises of compound shapes, and we did this adding gradient here. So no big deal, especially something like Photoshop. What happens when I scale it up? It's going to take a while and then scale it up. So you can work that out, and if you want that to work smooth out when you scale it up or down, then you should go to Effects, Document Raster Settings. Here you can bring it down the point. If you, let's say I've got 300 ppi, if it is going for print, make sure you have this 300 ppi, and then if you're working, it might just crash. Okay. Alright, so now if I scale this up, it is going to take a little bit of a load. I'm going to bring back the raster settings down to 72 ppi and give OK, and then make the editing here. That's going to work fine now. Say about this one, works okay. But once you're done with the editing, it's still vector. You can just go ahead and give 300 while you're exporting your PDF, because it is going to remember it as 72. Whatever that was given at last. So while you're working, you can crank it low. When you go out for your pre-process, then make sure you ramp it up right back up to 300. Now that's about a few shortcuts that could be helpful in Adobe Illustrator.